But here's the thing, growth always starts at the edge of discomfort. The version of you that you're meant to become is hidden behind the fears, doubts, and limitations you've accepted as truth. See, most people stay stuck because they wait for permission. They wait to feel ready. They wait for validation from others. But if I had waited, I'd still be stuck in a job I hated, convincing myself that one day I'd finally have the courage to follow my dreams. The truth is, your shadow side, the part of you that you've suppressed, avoided, and even been ashamed of, holds the key to your power. Because in that shadow lies the parts of you that are fearless, creative, unapologetic, and truly capable. When I embraced my shadow, I realized that the fears I had about stepping into my true self weren't real. They were just echoes of past conditioning. And once I pushed through them, everything changed. I built a business doing what I love. I made more money than I ever thought possible. I found the love of my life. And now, every single day, I wake up in complete alignment with my purpose. This isn't luck. This isn't magic. This is the power of fully stepping into who you were meant to be. So my question to you is this: what part of yourself have you been afraid to embrace? What potential are you suppressing because of fear? What would happen if you finally gave yourself permission to be who you really are? The moment you stop fighting yourself and start integrating every part of who you are, especially your shadow, that's when life stops being a struggle. That's when you unlock a level of success that feels effortless. So stop waiting, stop doubting, step into the person you were always meant to be. Because once you do, everything you desire will naturally follow. And that's where most people stop. They feel that discomfort, that awkwardness of stepping into their true identity, and they retreat. They tell themselves, "This isn't me. This feels weird. Maybe I should go back to what's safe." But let me tell you something, every major transformation in your life will feel unnatural at first. That's because you're shedding the old identity, the one that was created by fear, by society's expectations, by the false belief that you have to be someone else to succeed. When I first started making videos, when I first started putting myself out there, I felt like a fraud. I thought, who am I to talk about this? Who's going to listen to me? But deep down, I knew that this was who I was meant to be. And the more I leaned into it, the more natural it became. See, your real self is already inside you. You've just been conditioned to ignore it. Think about a time when you felt completely in flow, when you weren't overthinking, when you weren't second-guessing yourself, when you were just doing what felt right. That's a glimpse of who you truly are. That's the version of you that creates effortlessly, that attracts success effortlessly, that doesn't chase opportunities, but naturally aligns with them. And once you embrace that version of yourself, once you push past the initial discomfort, you'll realize that everything you've ever wanted is within reach. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to sit with this question: who were you meant to be? Not who your parents told you to be, not who society conditioned you to be, not who you think you should be to fit in, but who you were truly meant to be. And once you get that answer, once you feel that deep pull inside you, I want you to start acting like that person today. Even if it feels uncomfortable, even if it feels unnatural, even if your mind is screaming at you to stop, because that's where your breakthrough happens. That's where everything changes. And when you look back a year from now, 5 years from now, you'll see that this was the moment that shifted everything. Now, the only question is, are you ready to step into it? And what happens when you get punished for expressing yourself? But here's the thing, that suppression doesn't go away. It just buries itself deeper, it festers. It turns into resentment, self-doubt, and anxiety. And before you know it, you're living life behind a mask, pretending to be someone you're not, just to avoid rejection, just to be accepted. That's where persona fatigue comes in. You feel exhausted not because life is hard, but because you're constantly playing a role. You're spending energy maintaining an identity that isn't truly yours. That's why so many people go through life drained, because they're not being themselves. So what's the solution? Radical vulnerability. Vulnerability is the antidote to persona fatigue. It's the gateway to freedom. But here's what I didn't understand at first. Being vulnerable doesn't just mean sharing your struggles or admitting your fears. It's deeper than that. It means allowing yourself to be seen fully, without the need to control how others perceive you. It means showing up as you are, whether people like it or not. And let me tell you something. When you do this, something incredible happens. The right people start showing up in your life. The people who truly align with who you are. You stop attracting relationships and friendships built on pretense and obligation, and you start attracting real, deep, meaningful connections. And the best part, you finally get to relax. You no longer have to perform. You no longer have to think, how should I act in this situation? You just be. That's the moment you step into your power. That's the moment you stop trying to be confident and just become confident. That's the moment you stop chasing success and start attracting it. That's the moment you realize that the life you've always wanted was never about becoming someone else. It was about allowing yourself to be who you were always meant to be. So ask yourself, where am I still wearing a mask? Where am I still afraid of being seen? Where am I still holding back? Because the more you let go, the more your real life begins. So how do you actually become vulnerable? It's not just about sharing your feelings randomly or dumping your problems on people. That's not vulnerability. That's emotional irresponsibility. Real vulnerability is about owning your truth and expressing it with confidence, not desperation. For me, it started with small steps. First, I had to acknowledge my fears. I had to sit with the discomfort of realizing that I was afraid of being judged, afraid of rejection, afraid of not being enough. And instead of suppressing those fears, I just let them be. I stopped fighting them. I stopped trying to act like they didn't exist. Then I started testing vulnerability in my daily life. I started saying what I really felt, even when it was uncomfortable. If I was feeling off, I told my wife instead of pretending I was fine. If I was uncertain about something in my business, I admitted it instead of putting on a front. And the crazy part, instead of people rejecting me, they respected me more. My husband started trusting me on a deeper level. My friends felt more connected to me. My business relationships became more authentic, and opportunities started flowing to me effortlessly. Because here's the truth, people don't trust perfection, they trust realness. When you're too polished, too guarded, too perfect, people can sense it. They feel like there's something off, something you're not showing them. But when you allow yourself to be seen as you are, you create a space for real connection. So if you're someone who struggles with vulnerability, ask yourself, what am I afraid people will see in me? What am I trying to protect by keeping my guard up? What would happen if I just let myself be without trying to control how others see me? Because once you stop performing and start living, you'll realize something powerful. The freedom you've been searching for isn't out there, it's inside you. It's always been inside you. You just have to let yourself be seen. This is why shadow work is so powerful, because when you bring those hidden, shameful parts of yourself into awareness, they lose their grip over you. Most people spend their entire lives running from their shadow, hiding from it, suppressing it, pretending it doesn't exist. But here's the truth, you can't outrun your shadow. The more you suppress it, the stronger it gets. It shows up in your relationships, in your self-sabotaging behaviors, in your fears and insecurities. It leaks out when you least expect it, sabotaging your happiness, your success, and your personal growth. So instead of running, you turn around and face it. You acknowledge it. You own it. And this exercise is how you do it. Like I mentioned earlier, open your Notes app, grab a journal, or even type this out on your computer. Name the document something simple like Shadow Self. Now, you're going to list out these 3 things. Characteristics. What traits do you have that you usually suppress? Are you selfish, manipulative, jealous, prideful? Write down 5 characteristics, attitudes. How does your shadow view the world? Is it judgmental, controlling, always needing to be right, afraid of rejection? List 5 attitudes, behaviors. What actions do you take that you feel ashamed of? Do you lie to avoid confrontation? Do you pretend to be someone you're not? Do you get passive-aggressive when you don't get your way? List 5 behaviors. The key here is radical honesty. No filters, no justifications. Just the raw, unfiltered truth. Once you have your list, take a deep breath. Look at what you've written, and instead of judging yourself, just observe. Realize that these parts of you are not bad. They're just parts of you that were pushed into the shadows because at some point in your life, you were told they were unacceptable. Maybe as a kid, you were taught that being assertive was rude, so you learned to suppress your assertiveness. Maybe you were told that showing anger was wrong, so now you bottle up your emotions until they explode. Your shadow isn't the enemy. It's just the parts of you that have been denied, rejected, or shamed. Now, here's where the real transformation happens. Take each of the traits, attitudes, and behaviors you listed and ask yourself, how has this part of me tried to protect me? Is there a way to integrate this trait in a healthier way? What would happen if I stopped being afraid of this part of myself? For example, if your shadow is manipulative, maybe that trait was a defense mechanism to feel in control when you were powerless. Instead of suppressing it, you can consciously choose to use that intelligence for persuasion, leadership, or negotiation. If your shadow is selfish, maybe it's because you've spent too much time people-pleasing, and this part of you is just trying to set boundaries. The goal here isn't to eliminate your shadow, it's to integrate it, to own it, to use its power instead of being controlled by it. When you do this work, something incredible happens. You stop hiding. You stop fearing judgment. You stop pretending to be someone you're not. Instead, you become a walking sigh of relief. Someone who is whole, not divided. Someone who is comfortable in their own skin. This is what true self-mastery looks like, because when you own your shadow, it no longer owns you. And that's when you step into your most powerful, authentic self. The speaker in this exercise is diving deep into the importance of shadow work, the process of confronting and integrating the unconscious, often repressed parts of our personalities. By focusing on the shadow self, we uncover traits, desires, or behaviors we've hidden because they don't align with our ideal image of ourselves. The speaker shares personal experiences to highlight the impact of the shadow self on their life, particularly the destructive tendencies of suppressing or overindulging certain traits, like competitiveness. The competitive drive, in the speaker's case, represents a shadow aspect that can both fuel ambition and, if left unchecked, cause frustration or feelings of inadequacy. The key realization here is that repressing these traits leads to mental blocks, depression, and anxiety. Acknowledging and understanding the shadow allows the speaker to take proactive steps to find balance, including engaging with this part of themselves in a way that serves rather than harms them. The advice to observe these shadow aspects over the next 2 weeks is crucial. By becoming hyper-aware of our patterns, we learn how the shadow manifests in our lives. The speaker suggests naming your shadow self to better relate to it and see its influence. Shifting from a defensive stance, anxiety, worry, to one of offense, assertion, action, provides a way to work with the shadow instead of being controlled by it. Ultimately, this exercise pushes for a deeper understanding of yourself, acknowledging your shadow, not suppressing it, and learning how to integrate it into a more balanced, productive life. The message is to go all in on understanding your shadow, to confront it, and take action with the energy it brings.